With around 45 million population, more than 200 tribal groups, and with one of the longest surviving insurgencies and around 5,200 kilometers of international border touching all the states. Yes, you guessed it right. I'm talking about northeastern part of India, which is considered to be the gateway to the Southeast Asia for India. Jai Hind viewers, welcome to our speaker session series at Global Eye Model Intelligence Summit 2025. I am Shivam Chandelier, Military and Foreign Policy Analyst at Global Eye Intelligence. We are a geopolitical and intelligence platform. Today, to discuss about the Northeast security paradigm, we have with us two esteemed panelists and ex-warriors. Air Marshal G.S. Bedi, an experienced Air Force officer and a military aviator, having 38 rich experience in operations, training, inspection, aviation, safety, and international relations. Being distinguished fellow at Center for Air Power Studies and Center for Land Warfare Studies, he is an aviation and a defense expert, writer, and a speaker. He has been a former Director General, Inspection and Safety in Indian Air Force and former Air Advisor to High Commission of India, London. Other speaker being Brigadier Neil John, Sena Medal, an analytical and tactical astute, security and military intelligence personnel with 33 years of experience in strategic leadership. He was posted to Manipur as a Deputy General Officer commanding of Mountain Division from the prestigious Defence Staff College, Wellington. He was officer in charge on 3rd of the May 2023 under the very extreme conditions of chaos in Manipur, rescuing more than 10,000 people. Now, after the retirement, he is chief of the security in Adani Nav Bharat Mega Developers Private Limited project, which is looking for the redevelopment of Dharavi area in Mumbai. Welcome to both of you, sir, and thank you for accepting our offer for the joining the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. So, who would you like to start with? I would. In warfare, the air always comes first, right? So, yes, I would let the Air Marshal please start this session.
Sure, sir. Sure.
No. Thank you very much. Thank you. I have no problem in starting, but you have been there on the ground, whereas I have seen this area from the air, and you lived there. I was also posted in Shillong. I senior air staff officer, looking after that entire region from Shillong. We have the Eastern Air Command there. So while all this area came, under our jurisdiction, but much before this recent upheaval occurred in Manipur. As far as the entire region is concerned, now, if I may set the context right, we are looking at Northeast, place in the light of turmoil in neighboring states like Bangladesh and Myanmar, right? I mean, that also affects what happened inside. I think Brigadier will cover very extensively. I will basically be concerned about that how the conditions in neighboring state affect what happens in these states, because they are interlinked somehow. And as far as Bangladesh is concerned, I mean, we have the longest border with Bangladesh, India, 4,096 kilometers almost. And Myanmar also close to 1,700 kilometers, 1,653 or something. Now, if you see border with Bangladesh, I mean, look at China and both Pakistan are under 3,500, 3,4 something and 3,3 something. Okay. So all this is going to matter, and the strategic position of Bangladesh is such that, it just that Siliguri corridor, what we talk of. Okay. So whatever happens in these countries is going to affect what happens in Northeast, and has a great security implication. What transpires in northeastern states affects the security situation and affects the entire country. We'll talk more about it. I mean, this was just to set the context right. And as your line of questioning grows, we will probably address, various aspects one by one, right?
Okay. Thank you, sir. So, Neil, we were preparing and researching and discussing this topic with you. So, how do you see the new president rule invoked in Manipur? What are its implications?
See, before I get down to Manipur and Myanmar and the interstate border,
yes,
yeah. So, is that background to the entire Northeast? You see, improvisation, there's no industrialization taking place, there's no employment, even the quality of education is a question mark. And the people of the Northeast, while they might be the best of people, scenic beauty, tourism actually is not propagated in the Northeast. If you see, like the amount of tourists that are there in the Western sector that go to Leh and Ladakh, you don't find that many tourists going into Arunachal or going into Nagaland or Manipur or Mizoram or all these places. And within these Northeast countries also, states also, you have something called the inner line permit, which is something very precarious towards India. You see, first of all, the alienation of the Northeast. And gave it a boundary. You have to understand the criticality. They gave it a boundary which did not follow any demographical lines. So you had people, intertribals across the state who had more people on the other side of the state boundary than in their own state. For example, let's take, they partitioned Myanmar. When they partitioned Myanmar and they formed Nagaland, Manipur and Mizoram, most of the people of Nagaland, Mizoram and Manipur have relatives in Myanmar. When they partitioned Tripura, most of the people had relatives in Bangladesh. When East Pakistan was formed, when the Britishers formed East Pakistan, they formed another boundary to these states, which shared a very demographical confluence. Now, other than that, what happened? Towards the northern side, most of these people here are Mongoloid. You have to understand, Arunachal, you take Nagaland, you take Manipur, you take Mizoram, they're all Mongoloid, and they're from the China-Tibetan claim line, and they come from those regions. And those are settlers who came down south because of accessibility to sea lines of communication. By forming Bangladesh, you cut off all sea lines of communication to all these Northeast states. So they do not have any access to the sea. Now, secondly, the largest amount of boundary shared by India is with China. Now, in the West, you have Pakistan, and you have China and a little bit of Afghanistan, which is immaterial. But you see what is happening in the East. You have Nepal, you have Bhutan, you have Myanmar, you have Bangladesh, and China. There are so many neighbors that you have created there, and within the confluence of neighbors, you have isolated a certain group of people called the Seven Sisters, and they are connected only through a very singular corridor called the Siliguri corridor, 27 kilometers of length. So you see, the feeling of alienation of these people exists, and this feeling of alienation is due to the demographical fault line created by the Britishers, and it is very strong in the Northeast. For people who have served in the Northeast, they know how strong this alienation is. The Naga doesn't believe and trust the Kuki doesn't believe and trust the Meitei doesn't believe and trust the Assami doesn't believe and trust the Bengalis don't believe and trust the Arunachali. So it is a mess. And militancy was existing for such a long time. We were trying to get it back together. Initially, we blamed the Chinese for sponsoring this kind of militancy. Then we started blaming the Myanmaris for sponsoring this kind of militancy under the guise of the Chinese. Then we started saying that Bangladesh, because of illegal immigrants coming in, they are the cause of this militancy. Then you see the demographical changes that has happened in Assam. One of these minority populations in Assam has grown substantially over the last 10 years. From about 6%, they're about 21 to 22% in Assam right now. So you see, there are a huge amount of changes that are taking place. And you see, those people do not share the same kind of lifestyles that the mainland Indian people share. They don't have the same food habits. They don't have the same languages. They don't wear the same clothes. They do not have access to the kind of medical treatment, roads, airports, infrastructure that the mainland has. And the progress of looking northeast started under Prime Minister Narasimha Rao's period, and it is slow. And the entire thing is taking place, the interstate dynamics are miserable. You have border issues between Mizoram and Manipur. You have border issues between what the Naga people are asking for, the greater Nagaland and Manipur. You have border issues with Nagaland and Arunachal. So you have border issues between the states themselves. And these states were once upon a time warriors. By the way, let me also tell you, the Manipuris, especially the Meitei community, which regards itself as one of the purest forms of Hinduism that they practice, because they think and feel that they belong to the sect of Hanuman and his Vanar Sena. So they are the ones who come direct descendants of Hanuman and that believe in it very, very strongly. And they consider themselves a step ahead of the Indian Hindu, frankly. Within all that, let me tell you of an incident. At a border at command in the border state there, the first time the Indians went and put a border outpost there were a lot of people from Nagaland, Arunachal, Manipur crossing through that border. And they were going into the Chinese side. And when they were going to the Chinese side, the Indian post stopped them and asked them, this is much later after, I'm talking about 1957 to 1960 के बीच में. And they were stopped and asked, where are you going? They said, for trade. He said, where are you going for trade? He said, to this place. But they said, but this place is in China. He says, okay, but who are you? And he said, and we told them that we are Indians. He says, what is India? And when did this become part of India? Till 1957 to 1960, the people of Northeast didn't even know they were part of India. There were no roads, there was no electricity, there was no school, there were no colleges, there was nothing, there was no improvisation, there was nothing there. Until the Christian missionaries started making inroads there and started giving them certain amount of agriculture, certain amount of medicine, of schooling, and then the cannibalistic attitudes, the Nagas were cannibals. They started, and these people have now sustained themselves and they've grown, but the fault lines are huge. Now, coming back to Myanmar and Manipur and your exact question, you see, you have to understand the dynamics of Manipur. Manipur has multiple populations. They have the Meiteis who live in the plains. They have the Kukis and the Nagas that live in the mountainside. And then they also have a little bit of Nepalese who are settled on. The issue is that none of these tribes like each other. None of these tribes have faith in each other, and none of these tribes will openly ever sustain a kind of friendship with each other. So you see, there is an underlying deficit in trust in these communities. And most of these people have relatives in Myanmar. You see, the Kuki basically were of the entire forest range, that the Kangba forest belt, they call it. They were in that belt, and they had relatives in Myanmar. The Meiteis, when the Meiteis people who were the Meitei terrorists were the guys who were launching attacks on the Indian army. Even the last attack which took place on one of the officers when he lost his wife and son with his own life, that was launched by a Meitei. But the fact of the matter is the Meiteis are the actual Hindus living in the plains of Manipur. So what has led them to take up arms? The only thing that has led to take up arms for the Nagas, for the Kukis, for the Zo community is basically non-understanding of their needs, non-inclusivity, and for a long time, a sense of isolation. And what is happening in Myanmar? The military junta is losing the war badly to the rebels. They have a problem with the Rohingya Muslims. They do not have any kind of income, source of income. So what is happening? They're more and more getting into smuggling of things that are not easily available, like substance, like drugs. If you ask anybody who served in Manipur, and I'm sure Colonel Ravjit also is here right now listening to this entire thing. He was with me in Manipur, and you'll understand that while drugs and spurious goods like liquor, etc., and Chinese goods pass through the border towns of Myanmar into India, into Manipur or Nagaland, the greatest amount of smuggling is done in the form of betel nuts. Now, one truck of betel nut, just imagine 1,000 trucks of betel nut, the best quality betel nut in the world comes from Myanmar, and it's all smuggled into India. There are no excise being paid, no border tax being paid, there's no regulation. They're all coming in, they're getting dispersed and distributed. Money is being earned by multiple factions, both in governance and non-governance. And you see, it is a mess. It is a mess. So what happened in Manipur? In Manipur, what happened was the president's rule has now been put in too late. There are two societies that are completely fragmented, completely distributed, with the security forces holding a line to separate these two people, that is the Kukis and the Meiteis. And that line is called the buffer zone. Now, the last buffer zone was in Rwanda, in Africa. We never realized that the same thing would be replicated here. Why? Because on May 3rd, 2023, when this entire thing started, by May 6th, we could have completely finished it. We could have stopped the entire aggression, which was basically by one of the communities only. One community was attacking, the other was defending. And why? This happened only because of the cause of rumors. And this happened because of the cause of rumors and the indulgence of the state government at that time, especially the chief minister. Now, under the chief minister's rule, he knew what was happening at every stage. He knew that villages were being burnt, people were being killed, and people were being segregated and chased into the mountains. He also knew that there are certain amount of militants that had crossed over from Myanmar. And they had come in and they were given weapons from police armories. If somebody says this, we are all witness to it. They were being given, they had given weapons from police armories, and these weapons then were circulated among all the tribes. And then started, just imagine, we just got Northeast under control. The army worked hard, it lost lives, it lost limbs, and they got the entire Northeast into control. And suddenly, once again, it had all heated up. It was absolutely perfect. Manipur had the Shanghai Festival. Manipur had a festival for 10 days where people from all over India came to Manipur. Even a group called Michael Learns to Rock came and played there, and there was a crowd of everyone in that open ground. Even me and Ravjit and all these people who are watching now had gone there for this show. Then there was the Miss India, Femina Miss India happening there, and it went off spectacularly. All these things were happening. It was absolutely peaceful. People were roaming around. The army was roaming freely. No weapons were being carried, and suddenly it flared up. It flared up because of communication problems, because of propaganda, because of rumors, because of somebody who did not even understand the dynamics of a tweet. One small little tweet messed up Manipur. When this entire rally was taking place in Churachandpur on the 2nd of May, that is the time the High Court also decided that Meiteis also would get the ST status. So the rally at Churachandpur by the Kuki community, because they were ST and given all the privileges, and they lived in the mountains, all the police officers were there, all the government officers were there, the Meiteis were feeling a crunch because they were not getting these kind of good jobs. When the Meiteis initially were told that why don't you become part of the SC/ST community, they said no, we are very high. We are high in the hierarchy of Hinduism, and we don't want to get an SC/ST status. But later they realized that it was against the employment policy of the entire Northeast, and all the best offices were being taken over by the Kuki community or the Naga community. So when the High Court, it was just the timing of it all. When the High Court announced this, the Churachandpur rally was taking place. It was a very peaceful rally, and within that peaceful rally, there were some instigators, and I'm very, very sure about it. There were some instigators who burnt up 2-3 Maitai houses and cleared up the entire flare. One tweet which came out was 40 Maitai women were paraded naked and raped, including one child killed. And that tweet, which was completely false, agitated the entire community living in the plains. And when the community living in the plains heard about this, they got totally alarmed, and then they started doing the damage and the chaos that was meted out in the entire Manipur. And that is how in Manipur today, what you see is a complete segregation. There are only Kukis in the mountains. There are Meiteis in the plains. The Meiteis can't go into the mountains. The Kukis can't come into the plains. So the fact of the matter is completely dispersed. Where are the weapons coming from? Now you have to understand, Manipur is all about weapons. Where are the weapons coming? They are holding Tavors and Uzis and all these kind of foreign weapon systems, which the Indian army also does not have. Where is it coming from? It's all coming through Myanmar. It's all coming through Bangladesh. It is all coming through sea routes. Now recently, 1 week back, there were 2 ships which sailed directly from Karachi to the port of Bangladesh. And Paira was the port. It sailed there and was caught with explosives. Now, what are explosives doing from Pakistan coming into Bangladesh and from Bangladesh through Tripura coming into Manipur? So what are these explosives doing? That means there is something substantial going to be happening where people are going to be exploiting the situation of these force lines. Does China have a role? Right now, I don't believe China has a role because China does not want to get included in these small kind of skirmishes. Does Myanmar have a role? Myanmar does not even have a say in it. But does Pakistan have a role? Yes, Pakistan has a role. You see today what is happening in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the kind of turmoil that has happened and the current dispensation there, Mr. Yunus, I can't call him a president or a prime minister because he's nothing. He's just illegal. So Mr. Yunus basically is all the way supporting the ISI and the Pakistani military. In 4 of its military schools in Bangladesh, Pakistani instructors of the ranks of major generals and below have arrived to train Bangladeshi officers and men on the art of warfare. So what is Pakistan doing in our neighborhood? What are Pakistani ships doing carrying explosives in our neighborhood? Where are these weapons coming from? And why are they coming into our neighborhood? So there are huge questions that we need to answer. And before anything else, I think the president's rule is a fantastic move, but I'm not very positive that the entire situation is going to come to normal very soon. It took 2 years to get here. The damages that have done are Why, like we see the videos of ISIS, the children of ISIS, it is called. One video was floating around the children of ISIS. The children of ISIS were pointing fingers like guns and telling the media that we'll kill you, we'll terminate you, and all that. So they're 4-5 years old children. That's exactly the thing that is happening in Manipur. The Meiteis children that are 4 to 5 years old are so indoctrinated. They're saying we'll kill the Kuki. The Kuki children are so badly indoctrinated. They're saying we'll kill the Meiteis. And the Meitei Kuki problem is just too deep to even get solved in the next 1 year. The Nagas have remained neutral. Very intelligently, they have remained neutral. And in that entire neutrality, Nagas are Christians, Kukis are Christians, but Nagas have remained neutral because they rightly specified that this entire problem between the Meiteis and the Kukis is not religious in nature. It is basically socio-economics. That is lack of economy to the Kukis in the hill region because of non-development, enjoying of rights and privileges by the Meiteis, and most of the state funds going to the Meiteis in the plains. And this socio-economic disagreement which has happened between them is the major cause of what has happened. And yes, I strongly believe if the chief minister was taken out in the first 1 month, the entire problem would have been sorted out long time back. I hope this answers my question.
Yes, your question, so before I come back to some questions I have marked, I would like to ask Marshal Bedi, sir. So, as far as I understood this explanation by Brigadier sir, my understanding says the geostrategic location of the Northeast, and with respect to the Act East policy of India, do you think this is the reason why this conflict is happening in the Northeast?
See, I mean, he's fantastically explained you the whole story of what happened in Northeast. Now, when we talk of, I mean, look, his policy started much later, 1991 or something. Okay, and before that, how you see again, I mean, you can trace as much back the history that when things go wrong and how do they affect national security per se. Border has been its location, etc. is all okay. But what happened is, like when he says there is no tourism developed in that Northeast state, there is a reason to it, because there is no infrastructure. Where do tourists travel through? There are villages in Sikkim area, I mean, or Arunachal Pradesh, etc., which are adopted by army. I mean, they don't even interact with the outside world. They have nothing to look forward to, and sometimes visited these places, on ground. Army showed you that these are the villages. They know nothing beyond that village, actually. Things must have changed by now. Now, I think if we see this East, it remained neglected because India probably did not pay much attention to infrastructure there, because we did not treat China as a threat for very long. We were so Pakistan-centric as armed forces that every year acquisitions, every year policy was with respect to Pakistan. And China was not, even after 62 debacle, I mean, it was not really given a priority. And if you could remember in 96, 97, first time, then Defense Minister George Fernandez made a statement that I want to tell you that actually China is enemy number one. It's a famous statement. When he made that statement, people started looking towards China. And I won't be, hesitate telling you that our war, documents, our policies, our, various plans did not think much of China as a threat. Some of the things would say that China is only a paper contingency. It's only after that, then when you started looking, and there was nothing much in East. I mean, from the air bases, the kind of aircraft we had, the other things, even I suppose when, 1966, if you go back to when I think the only time air power was used, against your own civilians in Mizoram, in Aizawl, right? I believe that the closest army unit from where, trouble was taking place was away. That is why probably, I mean, Mrs. Gandhi was probably 2 months old in office. January 66, she assumed office, and March 66 has happened. And the situation had become so volatile that army would have taken a day to reach there. I mean, that was the kind of situation when we are talking of almost 20 years later after independence, 66 and, 47. So if that was the kind of situation happened, that means we neglected that for far too long. And Myanmar, whether has a role or not, Bangladesh, you see, turmoil in these places affect us to a great deal, because after all, it was turmoil in Bangladesh which caused us a 71 war. It was only because of turmoil in Bangladesh that we went into war. Let's say if everything was peaceful there, probably a war wouldn't have happened. So now, when we talk of Myanmar also, there are training camps of, I believe, Alpha and MNF, etc. there. So, and how did India land up? When we see towards our neighbors, India does not seem to have very good relations with any of the neighbors for that matter. In that side, you talk of Myanmar, you talk of Bangladesh. I mean, you helped get independence. Myanmar, at one time, Myanmar was what, part till 31, it was part of the British ruled India. Okay. It is only later that, it became different, and 48 it got independence. And our trade relations were very good with Myanmar. You must have heard of that famous Bollywood song. It was made on Rangoon. From movie Patanga. Okay, it's a very, very famous song of those days. That means it was like a home. Rangoon. So it was a home going kind of thing. The trade was so popular in that area. And then what happened? And we trained their soldiers. We trained their armed forces after 48. 62 is when that military crackdown happened, etc. That India leaned towards democracy. They thought that we will probably deal with, we will be more pro-democratic, and that is what started alienating the region in Myanmar, which was pro-military slowly. And, that India was seen as a separate. And much later, we drew a balance wherein we said that, okay, nothing, again, that, when you talk of look east policy, etc., that, okay, start talking to the government in the region. Okay, I mean, no point. The central, if you want to talk to the military has control in the center. The periphery is controlled by so-called EAO, that ethnic armed organization. So if in India has to talk to military, it doesn't have, I mean, the periphery is with different people. So there is a problem, okay, that how this pans out. And, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, he rightly brought out, I mean, in December, the ISI chief, General Asim, visited Dhaka, and some of these crucial areas, Cox's Bazar, Maulvi Bazar, etc., all these places were problematic. And now his visit to that area and, to kick up sentiments which are pro-Islamist and pro-Jamaat kind of thing, has got a direct bearing with India. And now what happens is, let's say there are two neighboring nations and there is a problem of cross-border terrorism, let's call it, okay? If there is a cross-border terrorism and both nations are friendly and something is happening, if it's smuggling or something, whatever it is, then both nations, make an effort.
आपको लेना है तो पहला अधिकार तो आपका ही होगा उस सेशन में.
Sumit, can you please mute yourself?
Okay.
Sorry, sir. Sorry for the disturbance.
No, not at all. Okay. So what happens is then both countries put in efforts to, to control that. But if government in one country is weak and, cannot do anything, then obviously the whole onus comes on the next countries. You talk of Rohingya crisis, you talk of any other cross-border infiltration. This is going to have a lot of a problem. And what has happened is strategically, it makes difference. First, now I posted in Shillong, let's say, okay, I have a military and much east, much northeast places are there. To reach that place by road or by a legitimate route is a Herculean task. To go from Kolkata, let's say, you have to travel. And I was once in the office of Army Commander there, who's our CDS now, General Chauhan. Okay, he was Army Commander in Eastern Command when I was there. And in his office, I told him, I said, sir, why don't you try, to have a corridor through Bangladesh for military also? I mean, civil, you have two civil aircraft flying, but it will be a cakewalk, if you had to short notice visit through Bangladesh. Now, the Siliguri corridor, 22 kilometers or 27 kilometers in width, is very, very critical. We have assets, if every army asset or every military asset has to move through that corridor, okay, it's going to be problematic. So all these Maitri bridges, routes through Bangladesh to Tripura to, Assam, etc., will come under question if you do not have friendly relations with Bangladesh. Whether it is, national calamity, it doesn't have to be military thing always. It could be any other aid, moving to that place. So if the development does not take place, then there is going to be a problem. We have now built up assets. We have the most advanced aircraft, Rafales in Hashimara, which is, which is in West Bengal, very close to border, but you have no choice, because you have to react to a contingency. But if you do not have depth, then friendliness with Bangladesh would be a great asset in case we were able to, be a little south oriented from where we are. So this is what the overall security thing is. And one more thing, what happens is when a turmoil takes place in a country, how does it affect national security? They're your people after all. And if they are not completely with you, it matters. You take a war in Western theater, 71 Punjab war I've seen. We were children then, okay? Now, when a war takes place in that region, the local population support is extremely important. In that whole area of Punjab, they say, there was no longer made in army formations because the villagers were supporting, with just what everything which was there. Now, if the same thing happens in that area and the local population is not sympathetic to you, it is a great morale booster. I mean, the soldiers there feel, who are they really going to fight for if the local support is not there? And then comes things like FSPA. I mean, you Armed Forces Special Protection Act, which you can't do without. And first time it was enacted in 58 because of this problem of Nagaland and Mizoram in Assam. Okay. When they were demanding a different nation, and the roots of FSPA were in Quit India movement. So the act, which was not act, it was not an act then. I mean, it was enacted or brought into force to put, an end to Quit India movement. So that is the character of that act. In 48, we got the ordinance, and then 58 was enacted as an act and implemented. So it will have its roots there. When these kind of things are implemented on your own citizens, it gets a different paradigm altogether. So it's important to have peace in the region, to have a overall good national security status or capability in your nation, right?
Yes. As you were talking about the friendly villages at the border, so I keep remembering the Chanakya saying that the village is your first defense at the borders. And
Absolutely.
even sir, the government of India has come up with some vibrant village program to empower the border villages. And rather than saying the last village of the country, the tagline has been changed from first village to the country. So the thought process is changing, and I hope that also works in Manipur. So coming back to Brigadier sir, sir, basically you were talking about the intertribal conflicts, and this recent conflict in Manipur, or whether it is Naga or whatever conflicts this intertribal groups issues. This recent conflict, I can understand that it is because of the High Court problems. But what is the legacy issue in these tribals have within themselves? Connectivity, yes, government of India is not good. State government is not good in doing it. But what is the legacy issues, the intertribal they have?
Okay. You see, the entire area of Nagaland and parts of Manipur and Mizoram and Myanmar that you see was one province, right? Before the Britishers came and partitioned it. So it was one province. And the people almost spoke the same kind of languages, but they were different in features. Every Naga looks different from a Kuki, and every Kuki looks different from a Meitei. Now only they understand why people have different, why they look different, why their accents are different, etc., etc. Just let me give you some statistics. What happened was the Meitei population in Manipur is 53%, the Nagas are 20%, the Kukis are 16%, and the Hindu population is 62%, and Christians are 19%. Now, there is a large influx of Rohingya Muslims also that has taken place because of the issues of Myanmar into Manipur. Now, this entire valley, the Kubo Valley or the Kamau Valley, they call it, on the western edge, it involves basically Naga Hills to the north and Chin Hills to the south. And the Kuki is the largest hill tribe. The Kuki people are the largest hill tribe. And they call themselves the Kuki Zo people. Now, the Kuki Zo people are in Manipur. They are there in Nagaland, and they are there now in Mizoram, and they are there in Myanmar. So you see what has happened in Manipur. There are some original Kuki settlers, and there are some people who have come later. The total consensus that was done last time, there was about 8,000 old cookies staying in Manipur and 17,000 new cookies that have come up in the last 25 years. So you see, and they made Churachandpur their pseudo capital, and they find, but historically these cookies find mention from 1404. From that time into this entire area, and the cookies take a lot of pride. Why the cookies take a lot of pride is because when Subhash Chandra Bose and the Indian National Army wanted to fight the Japanese in Manipur, the cookies were the people who were the ones who came forward and supported the Indian National Army. They are very patriotic in their entire patriotism towards India. They fly national flags. They sing Jana Gana Mana. They don't have a problem with Vande Mataram. So does the Maitai. Even the Maitais don't have it. They also are absolutely patriotic and all that. But the fault line is basically the tribals have been separated from their roots because they have something called today the shared borders, like what I'm telling you. When we drew the straight border lines, when we said ये state Nagaland है, ये Assam है, ये Manipur है, ये Mizoram है, we didn't even get into the basic dynamics of why. We just went through geographical layouts. We didn't get into geographical layouts. We didn't put so much of effort to thinking why these states should be the way they are. And today, therefore, everybody in every state is asking for a separate state. Nagaland is asking for Greater Nagaland, Manipur is asking for Greater Manipur, Mizoram are saying that we want part of Tripura and Manipur. So you see, the interstate conflict, the basic biggest fault line is demography has not been given territorial due like they should have been given in the first place. Secondly is the sense of isolation from the mainland. They always feel they're closer to do business with Myanmar than to do business with India. To do business with India, like for Manipur, he has to go to 6 states and then come down to Calcutta or some place there to do business. It is easier for him to do big business through Tripura and Bangladesh and through Myanmar, get to their ports and do more business. The Mizo people which are there, they hardly have any business with the mainland. 10% of the entire business is with the mainland. The rest of the business is with Myanmar. Now, how is it coming in? Where is it coming in? Naturally, you can keep saying porous borders and smuggling, etc., etc. But you see, when smuggling happens, it is not only the goods that you consume that come in. With it come money-making products like gold, like drugs, like bitumen, like arms. They are small quantities with large money in it. So all these are also coming. And the third fault line is these are all basically Mongolite people and they belong to the China-Tibet confluence. And this China-Tibet confluence and the British legacy of drawing lines to distribute people has completely isolated them. अभी आप भी देखो, अगर आप कोई दिल्ली में that's the first thing that comes to your mind. See, at least the people in North are so beautiful. They are warriors. They're absolutely amazing people. They are warriors. On this show right now is Major DP Devi. Someday I'll ask her to speak about her. She's a Maitai and she's a very proud Maitai from Manipur, and I'm very proud of her because she's one of the most wonderful people from Manipur that I have met, who's working for the children also. The fault line is so severe tribally that these people do not trust each other, like I told you first. They don't trust each other. And they are waiting a चिंगारी चाहिए बस इनको भड़काने के लिए और ये चिंगारी उनको 3rd of May को मिल गई. And let me correct you. It was not because of the STA status which was granted to the Maitans. That was only one of the factors. There are multiple factors. There was the ego of the chief minister himself because a sports complex that he was inaugurating, the Kuki boys had come down from the mountains because their churches were destroyed, and they came and set fire to this gate, which was made of flex in north of Bishnupur on the 2nd of May. Then the entire peace march, they called it, the March of Churachandpur, that was basically to go against the state government and acquisition of hill lands. The Kukis feel that the hills belong to them. So the acquisition of hill lands by the Maitais they thought, by the chief minister, not by the Maitas, by the chief minister, they thought was against them. They said that we are impoverished. We do not have any progress. We do not have rails. We don't have airport. We don't have medical health. So you need to give certain amount of the state budget to prominence of these cookies, which did not happen. Secondly, you are now taking over a mountain which traditionally these mountains belong to us. So they agitated the Maitai psyche. Now the Maitai said, you tell us that we are the plains, we are the plains. You don't allow us to buy property in the mountains, but you guys who are cookies, come down to the plains, open your businesses here, set your establishments here, create your villages here, and you stay here peacefully. How's that possible? You see, that was the biggest question mark. The cookies came to the plains and started settling down because the plains had better distribution of wealth. But the Maitais were not being allowed to go into the mountains and no land was being sold to them. Even for development, the government wanted to, there's no land in the plains available anymore because the population growth has happened. And paddy cultivation takes place in the plain, which hardly sustains even 10% of the population of Manipur. Naturally, so growth had to happen towards the mountains. But the cookies ne apna darwaza band kar diya, bolte nahi hoga. Ye mountains belong to cookies, so now development should take place here. And if development takes place here, the cookies need to be given responsibility of the development, and whatever employment is generated or whatever finances are generated, that comes to the cookies. So that was another clause. The third clause was growth of poppy. You see, the chief minister running a program against drug. How far it is true, I will not comment on. I'll keep that a little confidential. But the fact of the matter is, who are the drug producers? The drugs, the poppy grows in the mountains. And this poppy grows into fields in the mountains where the police cannot detect or the public administrators from the plains cannot detect them. Now this poppy is taken and sold at about 350 rupees a kg. To whom? To Maitai contractors. The cookies grow the poppy, sell it to Maitai contractors. Maitai contractors take this poppy flowers, send it across into Myanmar, and in Myanmar it is crystallized. And when it is crystallized, the same poppy, 10 kgs of poppy gives you about 10 grams of cocaine, and then you bring it back into India. So the 10 grams of cocaine costs you 3.5 lakh rupees. And in the purest form. The cookie is the guy who's growing the poppy. The Maitai is the guy who's doing the supply chain management. And you see, this is huge amount of money. This is huge amount of money coming in. Then, like I told you, the beaten up. Then gold smugglers, liquor. A lot of liquor comes in from Myanmar into India. And all the liquor, right from your Glenlivet, Chevet, everything you talk about, it comes from there. And all those bottles are there. They come in trucks full of cases full in trucks, and they come into all your golf sets, your sports items, all coming from there. All smuggled, no tax, everything is in cash. So you see, Manipur was a haven for all kinds of activities, which was ready to be exploited with anybody who could just get into Manipur. The biggest problem of the Indian government is non-abolishment of the ILP, that is the inner line permit. You consider Northeast our country? Northeast is part of the mainland of India. Why does an Indian tourist get down in the Northeast and then has to report to the police or to the airport authorities or take an ILP permit online? If it is India, why within India is there such a paradigm that is drawn where Indians have to seek permission to enter India? So I don't really understand what logic this is. And while you might say this is to control the amount of people, to keep a tag on them, to know exactly where they've gone, because these were militancy influenced areas, that they might get lost, that they might get attacked, to keep a check on them, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Nagaland today is the most peaceful place in the world. Manipur was peaceful. It's no longer peaceful. I hope peace comes back. Mizoram is the most peaceful place in the world. They're just waiting to be they're waiting to burst. Why they're waiting to burst is because of the sense of isolation. You know, they have the best of education, but the quality of education is suspect. There are dentists who come all the way from Nagaland, Manipur, Assam into Bangalore and all that. And they go back to Manipur, Assam and all. And at the end of the day, you tell her that to put a cap in your teeth, what do you require? She won't know. She's gone there, educated and come back. She just attained this little pass mark and got a degree. And she opened a hospital of her own and she's practicing there. The quality of education is very, very low. It is not as per the standards that are required like at the mainland. Secondly, the opportunities don't exist. There are no industries, there are no factories, there are no agriculture, there's nothing. There's local agriculture that sustains families. So naturally, if you have an ambition, you need to move out. And if you move out, You have to leave your family, you have to leave your culture, you have to leave everything and come. Let me also tell you, the largest amount of Indian Army officers that are recruited every year are from the state of Manipur. And they're Kukis, Nagas, and Maitis. The issue is there are multiple formulas. And what happened? Before the entire thing, 2 months before the entire May 3rd event, the AFSPA was removed. Like the Air Marshal was mentioning, AFSPA, Armed Forces Special Powers Act. The fact of the matter is that the AFSPA was removed. And when the AFSPA was removed, what happened? The army, when the chaos broke off in 3rd of May, could not actually wield weapons and open fire to stop the pillaging from both sides that was happening. They had to go and only prevent, try and be basically a police force without opening fire. And they were just, it was like a boxer whose hands are tied behind his back. The army today is very, very wary of HR violations. And they will not take any pangas whatsoever until the orders are precise and clear. That was the biggest factor. If on the first day the AFSPA still stood, this problem wouldn't have happened because we would have controlled it. Because people there understand only the language of fire. Let me tell you another thing. In J&K, in Jammu and Kashmir, if a mob comes in and you fire in the air or you fire on the feet, near the feet, the people disperse and they run. The people of Manipur are strong people. They're strong-willed people. They're not scared. They don't know fear. You open fire on a people in Manipur, these people will not run. They will mount on you. And then there's no way you can control the mob. The Northeast is the jewel of India. These are the people that will stand by you against the Chinese in war. These are the people that will be there for you, carrying your logistics for you. Like the Air Marshal brought out, our posts still need to be developed. He has got something called billeting villages. He's got villages all over the borders. His roads are coming right to the borders. In Bumla, his concrete 24 feet road is coming right up to the Bumla Chowki. We are still way behind. In places, it still takes us 1 day to reach there, reach the border post. And you have to still walk away. If you have to send reinforcement into the area, it takes a lot of time. Like Fishtail 1, Fishtail 2, these areas. The problem is there are no ALGs, advanced landing grounds. There are no roads and tracks. We still are going forward and making them in a very fast pace. Hopefully, we'll come up there. The villages that you talked about and empowering the villages, it is only on paper. On ground, nothing credible has happened till date. The issue is the economics and the finance. Are you going to pump in the money into Manipur, into the Northeast? Today, what money would have gone for the improvisation of infrastructure in Manipur, in the Northeast, has gone into the security situation in Manipur. यहाँ का पैसा वहां ले गया. अभी आप बोलोगे ये तो चाइनीज साजिश है. उनको पता था कि हम लोग इतना सारा पैसा डालेंगे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के ऊपर, रोड बनाने के लिए, ट्रांजिट कैंप बनाने के लिए, बिलेटिंग विलेजेस बनाने के लिए, तो उन्होंने मणिपुर प्रॉब्लम खड़ा कर दिया ताकि पैसा जो उनके पास जाना था उनके पास नहीं गया, मणिपुर में आ गया सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन कंट्रोल करने के लिए. It's all bullshit. It's all narrative. The Chinese have still not got involved in this. The day the Chinese get involved in this, we are screwed. There's no doubt about it. Because Myanmar is in chaos, Bangladesh in chaos. अभी आप सराउंडिंग देखो यार. Myanmar is in chaos. बांग्लादेश इज इन chaos. यहाँ पे सारा मिलिट्री का कुछ चल नहीं रहा है, तभी भी कुछ चलाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं बांग्लादेश में, और यहाँ पे जो मिलिट्री है वो तो बिल्कुल दफना दिया है रिबल्स ने. And Nepal is not listening to us anymore. Only Bhutan is one small country which depends on us, needs us for their food, lodging, clothing, and electricity. That's why they are happy with us, because we train them all. But all the other neighbors are unhappy with us. And there is turmoil happening everywhere. And the Northeast is in the middle of chaos. They don't have sea borders. They don't have sea borders. And for the sustainment, they have to fall back to the mainland. And what in the mainland? The most critical thing that the Air Marshal also is constantly bringing up the Siliguri corridor. And the Chinese have made inroads from Nepal, from Bhutan, from Bangladesh, in the close proximity of the Siliguri corridor. If the Siliguri corridor is choked, अगर उसको अगर बंद कर दिया किसी ने, तो मैं बता रहा हूँ, I will tell you that the Northeast will fall, because that's the choke point. And Indians also very smart. We are also quite. Let me also be very, very clear. We are also good enough. We know our battle. It's not 1962. One more point I want to make: what the Air Marshal had said. We lost the battle in 1962, but in 1967, in the Battle of Chola in we beat the Chinese so badly that they suffered major casualties, but the Indian government never played it up. That was a victory which was one-sided. We beat them, so badly that they had to carry more than 250 body bags back in 1967. The problem is we are strong, but are we strong enough? Are we concentrating these people? The people of Northeast, are we getting them into our system? Why can't we have parallels drawn with Bangladesh, etc., and have mega roads coming up in the Karakoram highway from Pakistan for the accessibility to the Northeast? नॉर्थ ईस्ट वाला अगर ट्रेन पकड़ता है, अभी भी मणिपुर में ट्रेन नहीं पहुंचा है, दीमापुर से ट्रेन पकड़ना पड़ता है उसको, इम्फाल में ट्रेन नहीं है. So you see, we have a long way to go. Let's not fall for narratives that are given by media and some think tanks who have never been to Manipur. देखो तो चिढ़ आती है जब लोग मणिपुर गए भी नहीं और बकवास करते हैं. ठीक है, the fact of the matter is, you send people to Manipur to sort out the problem of Manipur who don't have any experience in Manipur. You need to send the people who understand the psyche of the people of Manipur. The Maitai people, the Kuki people are all good, beautiful people. They have a misunderstanding because of one stupid bloody rumor. That needs to be sorted out. They need to communicate. You need to communicate with them. Tell them that peace is something that has to come in the next 3 months, no matter what. And if they don't agree, force it upon them. Bring back Afghan and force it upon them until peace comes back. Anything else, Woman?
So, just one question I would like to add here is that from the day I started learning about the Indian security issues, I have been listening experts like you and other, whether they are civil servants, they're politicians, not politicians, but civil servants, armed forces people. Everyone talks about the absence of governance in the Northeast, the absence of infrastructure in the Northeast, absence of economic opportunities in the Northeast. But even after 75 years, we have come down to 75 years of independence. We know the problem. We are well equipped with the money. What is the gap? Why we are not penetrating in that area? What is the problem with the government there? I mean,
Yeah, I understand the question. The only answer is confidence building. Confidence building measures. So government of India and rest of the businessmen को confidence building के लिए measures दे रहे हो. You know that Nagaland has a problem. They have run a parallel government by the Isaac Muiwa faction. I hope you know, Nagaland has their own taxation system which runs parallel to the Indian taxation system. You have Manipur, which is in a state of turmoil. You couldn't do anything. कौन सा बिजनेसमैन जाएगा वहां पे कुछ करने के लिए जब उनको पता है? असम में देखो, असम में डेमोग्राफिकल इश्यूज इतने सारे हैं कि वी आर वेटिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट कम्युनल क्लैश हैपनिंग इन द बिगेस्ट मैनर इन असम. Because the only peaceful place is Arunachal Pradesh. Even Mizoram is about to, because of negligence and loss of infrastructure. There's no lack of infrastructure there. The fact of the matter is, for a businessman to go and invest into the Northeast, he needs confidence building measures. क्या confidence दिला रहे हो आप उनको? If Ambani and Adani has to go there, he has to find a pot of gold. That pot of gold does not exist. So how do you tell them that please go and invest into the Northeast? Now, there's a huge campaign going on. I just created a board when I was coming back from the airport saying, invest in Assam. Invest in Assam, the board laga ke sab kuch theek hai, but make the grounds for every businessman to be told that you'll be secured by the government of India for investment into Assam by adequate amount of insurance of his infrastructure, his workforce, and his product. If you can assure him that, naturally people will come. But there's nobody giving that assurance. Nobody giving that insurance to them. And you see, the Brahmaputra river itself plays a very, very important role. North of Brahmaputra and south of Brahmaputra. Now, the Brahmaputra separates the Northeast into two parts. The fact of the matter is always in spate. Every third year there are floods all over the place. And the people of Northeast, the problem is linguistic problem. Every little village speaks a different language. There is no money. There's no money in the Northeast to take back from. There is raw material, there are minerals, there is everything, but exploration is not taking place because people don't allow it. People are so, like the cookie, ये मेरा hill है, मैं hill पकड़ के बैठूंगा, इसको कुछ करने नहीं दूंगा. Their fault. There is a huge fault line there. They have to be told that, भैया, the hills are all very okay. They belong to the country, and for the progress of the country, while you will be made part of the progress, you'll be included in the progress. But you cannot be saying that the hills are mine and no progress is government running. It's so simple. कौन जाके इन्वेस्ट करेगा नागालैंड में 2 गवर्नमेंट चल रहे हैं? एक truck now for Fauji's, when we move out of Manipur, for a truck to come to Manipur, Saman and take it back to Manipur, people refuse. Why? Because from Dimapur, from Dimapur, hello, from
Yes, sir.
Dimapur, from Dimapur to reach to Imphal, he'll have to pay 6 places where illegal tolls exist. वो मेरे से 60,000 रुपए लेगा, वो वहीं पे 20,000 रुपए देगा, तो किस लिए आएगा भाई मेरे पास? Transportation, you can't even give confidence building measures to the transportation. There's no infrastructure like the Air Marshal said. There are no hotels where these people can stay. There are no laybys where they can park their vehicles and repair them. Even if there's monsoon and landslide, they're stuck there forever. And you don't know who will do what at any given time. Everybody is ready to exploit the situation on the behest that India is a different country. While the inclusivity started taking place now, the Nagas and the Manipuris started agreeing that India is part of the nation, as a building force and all that. But frankly, what Indian government is doing is not even 10% of what they should be doing. They should be infusing the Northeast with confidence building measures for investors to get into the Northeast and start investing. And take the youth of the Northeast, the best people in the Northeast, the best warriors in the Northeast, and give them jobs. Get the ladies of the Northeast. The world's best boxer is from the Northeast. The best footballer in the world is Northeast. All sportsmen are coming from Northeast. The best Indian Army officers come from Northeast. बोलते नहीं है, इसलिए वो ज्यादा जनरल नहीं बनते. लेकिन अगर उसका दम देखा जाए, they will sort out anybody. And people of the Northeast are amazing. Believe me, it's a culture which is dying to be explored. But we are only regressive. We are pushing them back and back and back. Okay.
Thank you for your explanation, sir. Sir, coming to you, Bedi sir. Sir, we are talking about the chicken's neck, the Siliguri corridor, and the area that is very crucial for India. So, of course, every military talks about some alternate routes. So, what can be the alternate routes if I mean, there are two cases that if Bangladesh is our friend, that is fine. But if Bangladesh is not, then are we just stuck there?
See, that is a reality. What happens is, I mean, that is how the lay of the land is. There is nothing much you can do that, and you will have to do your maximum to protect that with whatever it takes. Enough air defense measures, enough focus in that area, so that particular place does not, fall off. And of course, the friendship with Bangladesh will go a long way. And I think enough is in place to do that, and you have to develop that place. What happens is, just alluding to what Brigadier was saying, confidence building measures. What is confidence building measures? You take a simple case that government wants to develop UP, so you make a UP defense corridor. When you make UP defense corridor, what do? You tell industry that come here. They don't come here just like that because government has ordered. You give them some concession on electricity, you give them concession on taxation, you say, ye bhi maaf, wo bhi maaf, etc., etc. So some similar kind of drastic measures will have to be incorporated if you want development in Northeast. That is, you tell industry to go there and you make it so lucrative for them. You don't just take away hill from someone or some place, you make it irresistible. An example, when they had to secure Golden Temple, post that Blue Star, etc., they wanted certain area to be cleared. Now you had to vacate that place. People have been living there for hundreds of years, but they made it so lucrative that you just can't refuse. That they're giving up that place. So something similar that as it comes out, I mean, the Brigadier is very passionate about it, having lived there, and life is part of his life. And my point is, it comes across, if someone is listening to it, that is Northeast a liability for India? It so appears now, okay, that actually Northeast is becoming a liability for India. You have to convert it into an asset. It is, if I have two arms and one arm is just gone weak medically, then you need to do something about it. It should not become my liability. That I mean, it's better than having no arm at all, right? So you need to inculcate and do something about it, that it becomes equally strong as the other. So that chicken neck or whatever it's an area, I mean, that, Bhutan, like he said, a little bit of betterment, better relations there is how we could prevent a Doklam crisis. Okay. Otherwise, if that Doklam was, captured or, taken over by China, I mean, they would have dominated complete Siliguri corridor. I mean, that is the whole thing. And we are proactive. Wherever there is a clear government direction, I've noticed, government direction is clear, then we can live up to that. The conflict that he alluded to, or wherever, there is a clear political direction that this has to be done, then we have the ability to ensure that it stays with us. So I think I would say that we just need to turn that region to our asset rather than a liability, which now appears.
Yes, sir. So, okay, so it's a great discussion. I mean, we have the highest number of participants in this discussion. And as I said, sir, Deepi ma'am and Rajjeet sir, if you would like to share something about, we would be happy to hear from you.
But DP, I want to tell you, I just want to ask you one question for this entire audience. You are from Manipur, you are living in that state. Won't you want that state to come back to normalcy as soon as possible? Because the amount of people that are still living in refuge camps from both sides, children not seeing schools from both sides, people not getting adequate amount of food to eat from both sides, people having suffered in the cold from both sides, no medical help coming to people, the poorest of the poorest people from any side, and the negligence of the government of India towards this entire thing. What do you have to say about this?
Sir, it's very unfortunate. I feel that it shouldn't have happened at all, because we are very peace loving people. We want to develop our state. Our state was going through a major change, and we were very proud of it before this thing happened. And I was so proud because the best of the event was happening in that state. Our state was hosting it. The Miss India was conducted in Manipur. Sangai festival was on the peak. It was so beautifully done. The roads were better, the business were developing, and children who had gone out to study, they were coming back, developing our state. Small industries, medium industry scales were developing. It was so beautifully developed, and I was one of the proudest citizen of that state. Unfortunately, when this struck, I do not take sides of the any community. Everybody is suffering. Everybody is suffering. There is nobody in the state who is living a very fulfilling life out of this chaos. No, none of the community is happy about this, this harmonious state being broken into pieces and such a division being brought out. We have lived in harmony for very long time. We have developed this state for in a very beautiful way. We have been able to get together, celebrate every function, or celebrate every festival as our own. Not about the community at all. Not about the community at all. It was all about being a Manipuri, being a Northeastern, on a greater level, being a Indian. It was so beautifully done, and suddenly it crashes. It crashes in the way that we never thought it would. Now I don't have the access towards a cookie community. Why? I have my best of my friends in cookie community, but I don't have access anymore because there's so much of distress being bought in. Another level, I would say, I am now in touch with the people who are in refugee. I am trying to get those children, especially the youth from 21 years to 24 years, to get them into the streamline, get them into a good job, so that they are not driven by hate. They are not driven by the feeling that the other community is behind us. No, I don't want it. I didn't want it all these things to happen. But at the end of the day, if you see, the same thing is also happening in the other community also. It's not about only our community. It's just that I don't have the access. I do not I do not negate the fact that both the side it's pain. Both the side it's pain. They are being shattered. They are being driven away. I am not saying by any other community. Both the sides have been driven away from their homes, from their roots, and it's not a great state to be being driven away in our own state to be in somewhere else. I am in touch with so many children who are in youth age, and the kind of painful stories they give out to me, I absolutely agree it will be the same thing for the other side also.
Ravjeet, are you in? Ravjeet, are you there? Colonel Ravjeet?
Yes, sir, I'm here, sir.
Can you share some notes of yours?
Yes, sir. To start with, firstly, thank you for making a part of this forum, sir. I just wanted to thank you, everyone and everyone, for listening in. I've been hearing the discussion and I've been hearing a lot of passion flowing. So first thing first, I just want to compliment everyone, all the speakers. They spoke very well, especially Brigadier Neil John, as eloquent as ever. I totally agree with you on one aspect. Possibly, I've traveled the length and breadth of this country. And if I ever have to take a holiday in this country or go anywhere, it will always be the Northeast. In fact, even after moving out from the Northeast almost 8 months back, I have gone twice on a holiday, once to attend Hornbill and once more to just meet some friends. Because that is one place I feel me and my wife and my family feel most secure, most loved. And because the people there are just wonderful. I've traveled and I've had multiple tenures there. And every time I've gone back there, is that feeling that you get sometimes you feel that you're not in India, because the people there are so courteous, they follow rules, they're nice, they're not interfering, and it's a beautiful culture. That is about the people per se. And I totally agree with what Brigadier Neil John said. The amount of effort which is being put in to create jobs, to create infrastructure, to connect them, to improve the connectivity, whether it is rail, whether it is road, whether it is air, it is minuscule of what it should be. The amount of effort which is being put in, probably in other parts of the country, if another 30-40% of that is put in there, the people there will embrace you with open arms. They will work hard. I mean, like I mentioned about the people there, they are the most loving and most hardworking people without any malice, whichever community they be. They may be Naga, they may be Kuki, they may be Metis, they may be Tanguls, they may be anyone. But it is just sad. But unfortunately, even though, what Brigadier Neil mentioned, some amount of infrastructure, some amount of investment has happened in the state, but even Major Devi will agree with me, Northeast is also suffering from one malice, which is possibly there in the rest of our country, and more so now in Northeast, is that there is a lot of corruption. And that corruption is both in the civil side as also in the government. That's a fact.
Absolutely.
And as a result of that, there is I hardly see any middle class in Manipur. You're either up there, you're either very rich or you're not. As simple as that. And I would actually, and as a reason of that divide, I would probably quote from history with Thucydides said that, the strong do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. So that is the, sums up as far as Manipur is concerned. When this whole crisis happened in Manipur or it happened in Nagaland also in the past, it's not that the people who were rich politicians or people who were, with good businesses and everything, they suffered. Their children were studying very nicely in Bangalore, Bombay or Delhi. They have their houses. It is the people who are on the lower strata of society who suffered. Even today, they are the ones who are living in refugee camp. They are the ones who are suffering from education. They are the ones who suffer, who do not have any clear-cut future in front of them. And I think we are to blame for that, because we have not been able to ensure that kind of transparency, that kind of governance, that kind of honesty of purpose. So whatever, even that 10% which is being pumped in by the government, even that 10% is not reaching the people where it should. Probably 1% is, 2% is. And that is why the progress is there for you to see. That's my 2 bit.
Thank you, Ravjeet. Thank you. Shubham, back to you.
Thank you for your detailed explanation, sir. And to DP ma'am, you could listen to the recorded lecture, the series, and there was no mention of liability. The liability was in context, and if you ever find it little offensive, we as a host are assuring you that Northeast is very much an asset for us, and that's why we are discussing sitting in different parts of the country. So, sir, as we have exceeded the time, and just we would like to have closing remarks, starting with A. Marshal Bedi, sir. Some solutions for this problem, sir, specifically with respect to the governance issues the Northeast is facing, sir.
No, I think it's been aptly covered through the discussion that you need to develop that area more. You need to pump in more money. You need to pay more attention, and you need to take some decisive actions there. You started with President's rule. Now, I feel that should be with an aim. I mean, the current tenure of the government is, I believe, till 27, and they have not yet dissolved the assembly or something. It's just that it was in force because they couldn't find another leader to take over the reins. Tomorrow, if they find another leader, probably it may be revoked. I don't know what will happen. But I mean, when things are done, there must be an aim to it that, okay, why is it being done? Okay. So you need to treat this region. It needs to get the importance that it deserves, and I think economical interest is something which overtakes every other interest. You take whatever to put it in context. I did one tenure in Congo, the UN. I was contingent commander there. We had the Indian Air Force contingent being guarded by Pakistan Infantry Battalion. Okay. So when you slept, in your bunkers or in your places, on guard was a Pakistan soldier with a rifle, and here you don't see eye to eye, right? What was the reason? Not a single incident of any kind of, any quarrel or anything. No untoward incident reported between an Indian or a Pakistani. What was the reason? The UN, the economy, what I'm driving to is that the economy, the sense of economy is so important. What a normal soldier got here, as an allowance, what UN was paying almost 5 to 10 times there. Okay. And there was a clear direction that if two people fight with each other, we do not have time to, solve your problems or something or find out who's right, who's wrong. You both will be deported. The fear of deportation and losing that allowances was so high that nobody fought with each other. Okay. So my point is, if the economy is built in, probably people get into turmoil and things like that when there are, greater interests than the economic development. If the economic development is brought in that area, infrastructure comes in, tourists start going there, there are good hotels, there is good industry, the local people find, employment, etc., then probably that is the way to go, and it automatically provides you, a much greater security setup in that place. And that is the way to go, I guess.
Thank you, sir. Brigadier, sir.
The only way you can improve Northeast is influx. You have to induce Northeast with money. You have to induce Northeast with infrastructure. You need to infuse industry into Northeast, and you need to give employment to Northeast. Literacy they already have. People they already have. Commitment they already have. Nationalism they already have. The Indian government just needs to infuse a lot of money into it and industrial revolution in the Northeast. Once they do that, employment will come in. Once employment comes in, people will not have to leave their homes. Just imagine you're leaving your home to work somewhere else, the rest of India is to blame. We are to blame for ill-treating these people of Northeast, the most beautiful people of Northeast. And the only way forward is the Indian government needs to take serious effort into the Northeast and not just lip service.
So what we can conclude is basically economics. The solution lies in the economics and the money there. Right. So thank you, both of you, sir. It's been a 1 hour 25-minute session, so one of the longest session of our summit. Thank you for discussing this strategic area for us, and we would hope that if you would want, then you can also attend some other summits, other sessions in the summit. Thank you for your time, sir.
Have a nice day, and thank you. Thanks to the Marshal Bedi, and also to Ravjeet and DP, and for all my friends who joined in here. And good day, and God bless. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Brigadier. Bye.
Thank you, sir.